1, 2, 3.
Céad Míle Fáilte, you're very welcome along to the Brian and Kieran Warfield podcast, the ramblings of two Irish balladeers, featuring Brian Warfield of the fierce and mighty Wolfetones and his son Kieran, that's me, of the band Catalpa, and also of the Bandwagon Bus, Dublin's only musical ballad tour on wheels. So sit back, relax, grab a tea, coffee, beer or wine or whatever takes your fancy as we go rambling through life's misty foggy dew, through stories, songs, history, politics, life on the road, and just a general bit of crack. Okay, so this is an unplanned episode that we felt that we had to do after the online abuse and death threats that the McClean family, both James, his wife Erin, and James's brother have been getting of over the last couple of days or week. So firstly, I would like to dedicate this episode to Kenny Murdoch, who would have been a member of the CRIS Confederation of Republic of Ireland Supporters Clubs and also a good Cliftonville man. And I just learned this morning that Kenny had untimely passed away last night after he had posted about Celtic. So he was a good Celtic man. I last was with him at the treble cup final. So we'll dedicate this episode to Kenny. And Dad, what you...
and the Lord of mercy on his soul.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A good soul too.
Yeah, I was a lovely man. Absolutely lovely. Devastated to hear the news. And a good football man. Really good. There's a great picture of Kenny in France in 2016 when Ireland scored the winner against Italy, and Kenny he was in floods of tears. So very emotional man, and we enjoyed the day out with him in Celtic Park that day. Ireland were playing a friendly against Celtic the next day, so he got to see both games with him.
Yeah, sad. Yeah, really sad.
So condolences to the Murdoch family, and anyway, we'll get on with it. And so you've been reading about James McClean and the abuse that he's been getting and death threats. You know,
he's been getting that for a while, and it's a shame. A lovely man, and we had the pleasure of meeting him up in Derry at one of our shows there in the Millennium Forum. And he came along, and his brother came along, and his wife was there. There's lovely people. And it's a shame, you know, Irish people have always been a target at some stage or another for abuse in England. We took it for so long, the paddy joke, you name it. And it goes back centuries. You just didn't start immediately because, like, years ago, they sort of looked down upon the Irish as a lesser people than they were. And they're forgetting the fact that we taught them how to read and to write. We gave them education for free, brought them over to Ireland, gave them books, put them up for free, and, gave all that education to them. And you could see in the Anglo-Saxon books and everything else how much they were influenced by the Irish monks that were over in England and had started many of the monasteries there. The Reverend Bede, indeed, grants the great Irish monks for, giving education to the country. So, now they come back and they look down upon us as a lesser people, and they had no right to do that. Just terrible situation, and abuse and racism at its greatest.
You can see that in all the old books. You have the image of the big paddy being a big tug looking.
Yeah, they had this idea, when Darwin's theory of evolution came about, that the Irish were the in-between between the monkey and the real people, the Brits. It was just disgraceful that the abuse that we took over the years.
James first went to England to play football. He signed for Sunderland in 2011. And I guess it was not long after that when he first refused to wear the poppy when it coming up to the 11th of November. And I've been in England when that's going on. Actually, I was in Scotland one time. I was in Edinburgh with work, and I'd say I walked maybe a half a mile through Edinburgh, and I'd say I got stopped about 10 times to ask me what. I see you don't have a poppy. Would you like to buy one?
Yeah.
So it was a constant barrage of. I was like, no, I don't wear a poppy. I don't. I'm Irish. I don't feel comfortable wearing a poppy. Blah blah blah. And it's everyone's up. It's up to each individual whether they want to wear one.
It would be grand if it was by choice, and I've nothing against that by choice. But the forced wearing of a poppy is just beyond the pale for me, because like I think years ago I just wrote a piece about it, and I'll just read a bit of it. I had two of my grandfather's brothers and a brother-in-law killed in the First World War. I don't want them to be remembered by a campaign that is arrogant, chauvinistic, divisive, and smells of British imperialism. It is not it's not undemocratic to force people to wear the symbol that for many is one of aggression. These poor brave men were thrown into this massive theatre of death and destruction, put in harm's way, forced into suicide charges to certain death, died from the effects of mustard gas, or they lost their nerve and broke down facing a firing squad, believing they were bringing freedom and liberation to small nations from oppression. The freedom they fought for is flaunted by what can only be described as an aggressive campaign of a paper poppy, hawking, using the British interests and loyalists as propaganda tools. Now, you look at the television or anything like that, football, anywhere you go, the poppy is forced upon people whether they like it or not. I see people on television and nobody objects. And, if that happened in Ireland and you had a campaign in Ireland where everybody had to wear an Easter lily around Easter time, there'd be uproar from everywhere. But yet they accept this fact that the poppy can be forced upon people whether they like it or not. And James McClean, I think he's probably one of the only and one of the few, if not the only, that rebelled against this. And this forced and racist policy against Irish people must stop.
And James has a good reason for not wearing the poppy,
So have the Irish. Yeah.
I know that, but James has a very good reason, being from coming from Derry and what happened in Derry, and he's written to. I think it was when he was with Wigan. He wrote to what was the chap that owned Dave something or anyway, the owner of Wigan, and explained his reason for not wanting to put the poppy on his jersey. And since then, he's been hounded. Like myself and Phelim wrote the song "No Poppy, No Anthem."
Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah.
Great song.
Thanks, Dad. Sure, look, we'll have a listen to it now, and then we'll come back to the chat.
In old Derry town, where civil rights protesters are shot by the crown. Though unarmed and innocent, these people that died were dishonoured in death by propaganda and lies. No poppy, no anthem, my name's James McClean. I won't face your Union Jack for your God save the Queen. When a bloody Sunday apology took 38 years, and events of that day still brings Derry town to tears. Well, I played for my hometown and soon got the call. Crossed over to England to play league football. And when I was capped in the green of the south, for a proud Derry boy, this was never in doubt. I then moved to Wigan, no poppy I'd wear, to stand with my people and the pain they still bear. My reasons for doing so came from the heart. I was vilified and threatened, this was only the start. No poppy, no anthem, my name's James McClean. I won't face your Union Jack for your God save the Queen. When a bloody Sunday apology took 38 years, and poppy, no anthem. My name's James McClean. I won't face your Union Jack for your God save the Queen. On a bloody Sunday apology took 38 years, and events of that day still brings Derry Town to tears. Yes, events of that day still brings Derry Town to tears.
We wrote it, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 years ago. I think it was James had signed for West Brom, and West Brom were on a pre-season tour in New York, and they were playing I think because James was either going to sign for New York Red Bulls or West Brom, and he went with West Brom, but West Brom did a pre-season tour over, I can't remember who they were playing, but at the beginning of the match, the God Save the Queen was played. And all the players from Wigan, or from West Brom, turned towards the Union Jack flag that was in the ground. Mm-hmm. And James turned away. Didn't turn his back on it. Now, he turned sideways. And he bowed his head. And he said after, people then slated him, saying that he ignored the British national anthem and blah, blah, blah. And he got terrible press over it, which I think probably stoked the flames of hatred against him, where you have, what happened this week, a 14-year-old young lad saying to James's brother that he would want to tie James in a chair and burn his family in front of him. What kind of 14-year-old...
Terrible, vicious stuff for a 14-year-old child. I mean, how can he even think about that? So obviously the parents aren't watching, or, there's an inbuilt hate in the family already that inspires this young lad to say such awful things about such nice people. It's a bigger world now, a global world, and we must accept, and we do accept, other points of view in Ireland, and there are many. But it seems like, and I think that's why Brexit came about, was that the British can't take other people and be respectful of their ideas and of their opinions. And that certainly is true in James's case.
But it's not all British people, Dad. It's only a small number of
them. Of course. It's not. I mean, there's 60 million people in England, and, a very, very small minority of them would be vicious and angry against the Irish people. But, it's the way it is, and we have to try and change it.
Yeah, I've come up against what was called the old National Front, British hooligans in both Germany in '88, showing my age here, and Italy in 1990. And in Germany in '88, we got chased out of a pub that we were in after we'd beaten England, and we got glasses, big stein glasses thrown at us. In Italy in 1990, we got a boat over to Cagliari, over to Sardinia from Sicily. It was an overnight boat, and there was no alcohol on it. There was no alcohol was banned 24 hours before the game. And when we got into Cagliari, there was nothing open because the British had stabbed 2 locals the night previously to death, with trouble. The British supporters. And so we were just hanging around the town. We couldn't even get a bottle of water where we were. So there was like a little cathedral on top of a hill, and there was a little football ground down below. And we started playing football with some English fans. It was a great bit of crack, great bit of banter. The cameras were coming around. And then as the day went on, it got warmer and warmer. The match was late that night, and I think it was 8 o'clock kickoff. Now, bear in mind, we had no food, no water, couldn't get anything like that whole day.
Right.
And we were sitting on the bank. It was a sloping bank up to the cathedral, and there was a few other lads from Blessing and that we had met. And it was mad because it was before the time of mobile phones, So we just arranged to meet. We met this guy from Australia. We said in Rome, we said we meet you at 3 p.m. on such and such a day in the GPO in Rome. Didn't know if there was 1 GPO or 2 GPOs, just a point of place. And we actually met him there, but we actually met the lads on the quay coming off a boat from Citywest. And we all got together. But as the evening went on, it got closer to the match. A lot of Irish families had congregated onto the bank and were having picnics. These people that had flown in for the day. And there was a bit of banter and great crack. And then we could hear this chanting coming up the road. And we all had our shoes off and were relaxing. Like, I had no runners on or nothing. And I looked out and I just seen all these Union Jacks coming up, and I could hear no surrender to the IRA. And I said, "Well, this is not going to end well." So I went back and I started putting on my runners. At the lads, we put on our runners, and
get out of here.
So as they got closer, it got noisier and noisier, and all the families, like everybody, was just sitting there, and they all stopped, all in unison, faced us, and started giving the Nazi salute, which I was going like, that's mad. Like, all these English people giving the Nazi salute with their hand up. And this ringleader came out and he started going, "You fucking IRA bastards, you got my brother and you won't get me," and all this. And one of the lads from Blessing and Leaky Lennon, he shouted out, "They got the wrong brother." And with that, there was an absolute, they just charged at us, like, and I remember I had a lovely flag, and I had a lovely scarf that I had brought to Germany in '88. But by Jesus, did I not collect that? I went up that hill as fast as I could. Yeah. And I mean, it was a steep hill, but there was families there that I'm pretty sure, would have got
injured in the
like young families, like, we just turned and ran, like, and my last abiding memory of it was going over jumping over this car, over the bonnet of this car, trying to get away, and Leaky Lennon going, regroup.
Yeah, good job you're able to run. If I was there, probably wouldn't be able to run. But we had it in Dublin too, in Lansdowne Road, when we saw
95.
When the match was stopped because of the riot by the British fans in the stand. I couldn't believe it. I was there. I was looking from the opposite side, and it's just unbelievable.
I was in the South Terrace.
Unbelievable, and the throwing of chairs and everything else like that. So, what's it all about? Is it about we're still the supreme leaders of the world, and we won the first war, or Second World War, and all this kind of thing. They forget that they didn't win it on their own.
Yeah. I know they're
arrogant.
They taunt the German fans as well.
They're arrogant about it. You see. So bringing us back to poor James McClean is just an awful time for him.
But also for his wife, Erin. That's an awful thing to have to go through when you're trying to bring up a young family in a strange country. That's hard and difficult enough, and to be unwelcome makes it even more difficult. So, like, it has to be brought out, and the courage of the McClean family just is unbelievable in spite of all this. So I take my hats off to them and think, they're great people. They need your support. They need our support. And we give it to them wholeheartedly because that's what they deserve. Yeah, agreed. You're here. Have you had any death threats in your time, or in Wolfetone's time?
If you go back to years before the internet, we did. But, we were very lucky. We had a couple of narrow escapes. Of course, we had going into various gigs in the 6 counties. Like one particular gig, I think it was we were in County Down in Rostrevor, I think it was, and we were playing a gig at a GA club, probably about 4 or 5 miles outside of town, and we as normal go for a pint or two before the gig and a sandwich, and we asked, was there a pub nearby we could go. So they took us to this pub, but we weren't allowed into the bar area. They took us to the kitchen, and they said that there was some police force and security people, they called them, in the front bar, and there was police and soldiers and all kinds of guys there, and we could hear the ha-ha and the revelry going on that was in the background as we were having a couple of pints in the kitchen. Later on, we went on down to the gig anyhow, and later on, during the night, I heard a lot of screeching of cars and activity outside the tent. It was a big marquee. But after the gig, I was called over, and the guy that was running the gig, or one of the committee, said, you can't go home by the main route. And I said, why? He said, yeah, because there's a block down there, he said, that's going to get you. And we're going to take you over the mountains and we'll show you the way after that. So up we go after the gig, pack all our stuff, up we go up the mountains in the morning. We reached the top after some great struggle with our old comma van. And we reached the top and they point the road to us and just say, keep going straight across those hills down into Warren Point and then head for Newry and you'll be grand. The blockage had gone at some stage, they told us, but that was the way. And they must have been in contact with somebody. We got down to Warren Point and with some struggle because the van overheated and we had to get bog water and pee in the bloody thing and everything to keep us going over the hill. When we got down to Warren Point into Newry, our driver, Vincent Clare, decided he never made a turn. He always kept going straight, no matter where you were going. You had to keep an eye on him because you never know, he'd keep going straight. You could end up anywhere. But I kind of took an eye out and to watch over him, and he was heading for Armagh. So he never made a left for Dublin. So eventually we got back to Dublin. Anyhow, the next day I got a phone call from Oliver Barry, who was our manager, and he said there had been death threats against the Wolfetones and that the special branch had told us not to go north and that we were to cancel any gigs we had for the weekend coming, which we did. And on that following Wednesday, the Miami were shot by the Glenanne gang. So I thought, and I still think and believe to this day, that the people who were drinking in the front of the bar where we were having our pints were the Glenanne gang. And because it was a mix of police and UDR and army personnel. And so when we did get back anyhow, as you know, the Miami were killed and it stopped people going north. But we kept going north, but the way we did it was quite differently. We were met at the border by people. We were split into 2 or 3 cars or whatever, and sometimes in vans and sometimes in a hay truck. And we were brought to the gigs and we were brought back. At one time, we were brought, Jerry Adams, I think, had an armoured car. It was a big American car with steel doors and bulletproof windows. And we were on our way, they were taking us back to the border and we stopped by a block, an army block. But when we stopped, the guy that was driving the car, he was a very funny guy. But the guy that stopped the car, he yaps the way to the money and we head off straight. When we get past the checkpoint, about 4 or 5 miles down the road, he reaches under the seat and pulls out a revolver. I said, Jesus, if we had been caught with that, we'd be all in Long Kesh. But, we had loads of those experiences. And, it was scary, but we are young and maybe we thought we were invincible. I had loads of those stories and, of all the different things that happened. But, it was always the threat of violence against the band. At one stage, we used to travel as the Blue Corps Show Band. And the Blue Corps Show Band didn't exist, of course. But we called it the Blue Corps Show Band because we came from Bluebell and Inchicore. And we'd all remember it. But, so many a time we were taken out and, the gear thrown on the side of the road and they'd pop off and then, we had to put it back ourselves. But, there was always that overhead threat on you. And we never ever told our wives that we were going north. We'd say, where are you tonight? We're down in Cork or somewhere. And just in case they get scared.
Well, I'm fascinated that Jerry Adams had an armoured car, and I wonder what he ever done with it. You heard a few popped out, I'm sure.
It's not an armoured car like you see in the military.
I know what you're saying.
Vehicle. Yeah. It was a big American car. I guess it was owned by the mafia at one stage. I don't know, but steel plated, bulletproof, and we felt safe in it anyhow. But we were very lucky had they found the gun in it, we wouldn't have been safe anymore. We would have done time.
Wonder did he get it from NORAD? And the other thing that fascinates me is that did you say you got put into the back of a hay truck?
Yeah.
I can't picture the four of you sitting in the back of the hay truck with banjos and guitars having a sing song all the way up the Belfast.
No, you see, they went with the gear. The gear went separate.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm only
and the gear could always get away. The gear didn't have any. They never knew whether the gear was Republican or Loyalist.
Right. So you didn't put any tricolour stickers?
No,
or
there was
like
no
that?
stickers. No, nothing. No, nothing like that. You know.
And I often hear, or see on Facebook and stuff like that, the Wolfetones never went north. They never supported the people of the north during the Troubles. And I tend not to answer these things on Facebook, and some of it's from other people that play rebel music. I read it, but I don't answer it because I don't want to give them any more oxygen to that argument. But I know from being a young lad that you used to travel quite regularly up north, and I remember traveling up with you a couple of times to it, and being terrified, having done it,
Yeah,
and especially you always went up around the time of the 12th, because you wanted to support the people of the north.
Well, we were up there during the UUC strike, the Ulster Union strike, and I remember we were playing in our bowl, and we arrived up to the place, and as usual we had played there a lot, and it was always full up with people and everything else like that. We were welcomed in anyhow, and at the end of it, when the gig was over, all the staff left, and they said, "Now don't forget, close the door when you're leaving." So they were scared out of their wits. But we were probably a bit naive about the whole scene, but we used to plan different ways of going and different ways of coming. And the way we used to plan it, that if there was a big, heavy Protestant town or something like that, we'd leave that out of our trip and go around some other way. And we'd get to our destination. And then on the way back, we often went to Donegal just to get made the trip longer and everything else, but at least you were safe from attack. But I was up in Derry one time, and in Derry, I was told by some friends that never to stop for what you would think is like a
British Army patrol,
not a British Army patrol, but a UDR or something else like that, like the Glenanne gang had set up. And I said, "How would you know them?" He said, "Well, they're small." He said, "There's not, there might be 2 or 3 or whatever. Wouldn't be the British Army have trucks and everything else out." So coming back from Derry, and I went through Omagh. I'm driving an old Mercedes, and I see a guy cranking a little light from left to right, a little red light from left to right, and this was during the time of the Murder Triangle. And I see the light going from left to right, and I said, "I don't like this." So I put my foot down, and I went right through the checkpoint. About 4 guys, 2 guys jumping one way, 2 guys jumping the other way, and I just ran on. And Tommy was in the car beside me in the passenger seat. He said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I said, "I just broke a checkpoint." He said, "Well, don't fucking stop now, or we're all dead." And I swear to God, I could still, as I went through that checkpoint, I could feel the hairs on my neck standing up on edge, because at any stage I thought if that was a real checkpoint, they'll have fellas on the hill and everything else like that. And after I broke it, they would have shot. But obviously it wasn't a real checkpoint, and it could have been a set-up by one of those awful gangs from Portadown.
You just don't know.
He didn't know, but I mean...
You weren't stopping to find out.
I wasn't going to stop there and I'll say, "Hey, you UDR, UVF, what the hell are you?" No, you couldn't do that. But people, it's not that you want to go out there and boast about it. I mean, have plaques and all kinds of things that, given from people who, in gratitude for the Wolfetone's performance, for raising money for prisoners' dependents, which we did all the time, and probably we did for Joe Cahill, we did probably 1 or 2 a year for him. And then the prisoners' dependents got a load of things. I have a plaque over there signing by all the prisoners in Portlaoise. And we did a concert for all the prisoners there and probably raised, a couple of £1,000 that went to their dependents. So, we're not looking for glory. We never go and boast about it or do anything about it. People want to think we never went north. I don't care.
Yeah, you were just doing it.
I know the truth. I was just doing what I needed to do at the time.
So a bit like James, you were doing your job. You did a professional job of it, and you'd go on sports.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Or play where you needed to be at the time, yeah.
That's right, yeah. And, I could have never have let the people down in Belfast or Derry because I knew from the early stage what they went through. Like, we were up there in Belfast on the Falls Road playing in 1963-64. And I was at the Flow up there, I think it was in 1965. And we knew how they felt and how they felt so isolated from the rest of the Irish people, in as much that, they had been burnt out in 1922. And, once again, during the Troubles, Bombay Street, the awful things that happened to the nationalist community up there needed support. And we gave it that support. And I remember Joe Cahill came down in the early days when there was no IRA or no provisional IRA, and he had no way of protecting the people in the Falls or the nationalist community in any part of Belfast. And he came down and some of the special branch in Dublin gave him guns. It was just the way it was. And then, I think the government of Ireland got very frightened with the retaliation of the loyalists towards Dublin and other places, and as much that they felt the British were collaborating with them and they could devastate many parts of Ireland if they wanted to.
Yeah, the Dublin Monaghan bombing has been
it was a threat. It was a threat to Dublin to stay out of this, or we're going to kill you, or going to ruin your country. And we were trying to develop a country at the time into the country that it is today, with industry and science and computer companies and everything else. So it was a tough decision, I guess, for them, and sometimes they run down for it, but it's a decision they had to make. And I think, most of the Irish people supported the people in their struggle for freedom.
Mm. I remember going up to the Ardoyne with you one time, a good few years ago. It was just after what happened in the Holy Cross school.
Oh, yeah.
And we went into this little bar, myself and yourself. You brought me through these little streets, back streets, and we ended up in this small little pub. And myself and yourself sat in it was like a little bar-y, loungy place, like off from the main bar. Yeah. And a couple of lads had seen you in the bar, and we went to get 2 pints, and there was 2 pints sent out to us and paid for, and then there was another 2 sent out to us and paid for. But it's just amazing, the generosity, and they were just more or less thanking you for coming up and supporting. And I remember going in, and Father Troy was running that gig, I think, was it?
It wasn't him; it was the community itself.
But he was sitting in the back end.
He came there all the time. It was very much part of their community,
and it was amazing gig, and I haven't been up at the Fela Festival up there the last couple of years. Like, it's just brilliant, just to see the passion and the emotion of the people that are there, and it's just getting younger and younger every.
Well, I think it is that, the Wolfetones never forgot the people of Belfast, and the people of Belfast will never forget the Wolfetones. And in as much that not alone by going up there, but in song. Songs like Joe McDonald that, changed minds all over the world.
Yeah.
I have to say that, like, people came up to me, people crying with that song, you know, and people, I remember the first time we sang it in San Francisco was the first time we sang it. And it was in huge big hall in San Francisco, about 2,000 people. And we sang that song, and it was the first time we sang it, so we weren't too sure what way it was going to go. And Tommy sang it as usual in his great tenor voice. And my friend Jerry Murray was doing the lighting. And the lighting guy turned around to Jerry and said, "I've never felt emotion like this in my life." He said, "This room is saturated in emotion." He said, "I never felt anything like this." He says, "What way do you want to finish this song?" And Jerry said, "Just bring the stage to darkness." And anyhow, we finished the song. The stage went into darkness. And there was about, I think about 20 seconds of silence. And I'm saying to myself, "Oh my God, nobody's clapping at this." And then it erupted into a massive applause that must have lasted 10 minutes. People stood up, applauded in every way they could, and it was just very emotional.
Can you imagine?
And on the same trip, then we got up to, we were up in Toronto, and we were playing this gig in Toronto, and there was a black guy, stagehand at the back. He does curtains and all that kind of stuff. And we finished the song, and I went off to get something or other, and he's at the side there, and he said, "My God," he said, "you wrote that song?" I said, "Yeah." "You got to tell that to the world, man." He said, "That's the best song you ever heard." But, you know, and that's the effect that song had on people. You know, we went all over the world with it, and it got standing ovations, even in places like Disney World in Paris.
Yeah, but it really tells a story. But for some reason, Dad, I can't get that image of you driving through a checkpoint. I'm getting an image almost of Dukes of Hazzard.
But I swear to God, I went through it at 100 miles an hour, and that's for sure. Because I've something in there that's inbuilt for survival, and that felt like a survival move. And that's what it was, I guess, because they warmed me up in Derry. It was a couple of guys who were attached some way to the Republican movement, and they said never ever stop for a dodgy checkpoint.
That's good call.
It was a good call, and I took a chance because, as I said, if it had been a real checkpoint, there would have been fellas up on the hill or something, and bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, and even now, like when I drive through, like we're playing up in Bundoran, and one time I decided to take Google Maps advice on the quickest way back to Dublin, which wasn't exactly, so anyone listening, never do that. I ended up going over the hills and through parts of Fermanagh.
Oh yeah, they're bad roads. Yeah.
Over this hill, like Phelan was fast asleep. Phelan normally cuts out and goes to sleep. I do all the driving, and I just go, Jesus, where the hell am I? Like, you know, but I always think back then to when you guys must have been up there during the trip, like, you know, to go them back roads and how small they were. Like, you know what you must have been thinking, like, you never know what you were going to meet just coming around the corner, like, you know. No,
absolutely. Like another time we were in Derry, and we were playing up for Sean Keenan up there in Derry. He was like Joe Cahill in Derry. He was the Derry Protection Association, and we done some shows for him up there in the ballroom. What's this called? But big ballroom anyhow. So we're unloading the gear into the hall, and it's at the back of the hall, you know, and people are queuing up at the front to get in. And next we hear bang, bang, bang from the roof up on top there, and there's a soldier's patrol coming down the hill beside the Stardust, and they're coming down the hill, and one of them falls. And next I hear a big cheer from the crowd going, I hear more bang, bang, and the troops kind of, I don't know whether they shot back or not. I couldn't distinguish which bang was which. But we ducked behind the van anyhow. And that's just one of the things. But we stopped on the bridge going home that night. And we stopped on the bridge, and we had a couple of visitors with us. Some people from Dublin like to come up and see what the shows were like. So we had a couple of them. So there was this woman with us, and she was in the front seat with Vincent. And the troops got us out on the bridge with the hands up in the air, the usual stuff. And he says to her, "Now out of the car, ma'am." And she says, "Don't tell me what to do in my fucking country. Go home to where you came from."
She obviously had a few sherbets on board.
She had a few on and no doubt about it. But the point about it was the fact that she wasn't getting up wasn't going to do any good for us.
Yeah.
We were left there probably for an hour or more, just at the side of the bridge with our hands up. And next they brought in a kind of an officer guy. And the officer guy, "What we got here then, mate?" And he says, "This lady won't get out of her car, blah, 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 blah." He says, why aren't you getting out of the car, ma'am?" "Because you've no fucking authority.
Oh, Jesus.
This is not your country." "Oh, jeez," I said, "we're here. We're all going to jail." So anyhow, eventually they gave in to her anyhow, and they left her there because she was an innocent-looking baby-faced girl, you know what I mean? She got away with it. If we had done it, or any of us, we would have certainly ended up either with a bullet or
a rifle butt across the head.
But she got away with it. But we didn't. We were left there. It must have been way over an hour, and I felt every minute of it.
I remember going across to see Celtic play, and we used to, because it was so expensive to fly, we used to hire a bus. Yeah. And I used to run a bus from the British Inn. For a couple of lads from Blessing, and there'd be about 10 of us, 12 of us maybe, and we'd all go across to St. John Aikens in Lockerbie, in his hotel there, the Townhead Hotel.
Yeah.
And every time we crossed over at Newry, crossed into the 6 counties, they take us off the bus, because we all have Celtic tops on or whatever, and they take us off the bus. And the first time it happened, a 24-pack of cans went missing off the bus. By the time we were put back, I was going, "Them fuckers are after robbing our beer." So every time after that, we'd put on an extra 24-pack or hide it under a seat or something. So if they took our beer again, we'd still have it. But going across there, the first time I was ever in Ibrox, and that was the first time I really felt sectarian hatred in mass, where I'd never. It was a New Year's game, and I think Mo Johnson had just signed for Rangers after he was saying that he was going to declare for Celtic.
Yeah.
And he switched at the last minute for whatever reason. He's now known as Judas. So myself and pal Mick Fleming, who you know, got into the stadium. You organised the tickets for me, I think, through Tommy Grant, and we went and picked the tickets up at the stadium in Celtic Park, and we went across. I'd only been in Glasgow once before, and so I didn't know where Ibrox was. So we said, "Look, we'll just hop in a taxi." So we went up and collected the tickets, and I'll never forget, Paul McStay was in the reception, and we said hello to Paul McStay. It was like my day was made, and we got a taxi across to Ibrox, because we didn't know where it was. And it was about 2.5 hours before the game.
Oh my God.
and we got out of the taxi, and there was no one around, we were just gone. Taxi man said to us, he said, "You want to be careful around here, lads, So we were going, where we go for a pint? And the only place I could see was a pub across the way with big blue front on it. I can't remember the name of it now for the life of me. And Mick said, "We go there." And I said, "Not a chance, I'm not going there." So then this police came up to us and he said, "Lads, you want to
cover it up.
You want to be careful around here." He said, "You'll could get yourself into trouble." But so we hung around, we hid sort of away, and then they cordoned off the middle of the road, and then Celtic fans started coming in on buses and stuff like that. But going up to the stadium and hearing, the first time walking through into the stadium and hearing we're up to our knees in Fenian blood and all that. Yeah, I was actually horrified. I'd never come across anything like that before. Because I'd been at a Celtic Rangers match previous to that in Celtic Park and didn't that type of hatred didn't come across from the Celtic side. Like, it was usually a fucking right, but nothing like that. Like, I could tell that they all wanted to kill me if they got their hands on me.
Yeah. Which many supporters were killed, and I remember I wrote a song about it, so there was a terrible danger there, and
there still is.
Yeah, and that's a shame, And they tried to blame it on the Celtic side, which is totally and completely wrong, because they've never killed any Celtics or Rangers supporters, but many Celtic supporters were killed and injured because of their shirt or because of anything else.
Yeah. It's frightening when you're over there sometimes.
Anyhow, we'll be over there again, please God.
Yeah, definitely. But your first time over there, well, maybe not your first time over there, but your first time at a Celtic Rangers match was a unique experience in terms of you went to a League Cup semi-final in September 1993.
Yeah.
With myself and Mick Fleming, and Celtic were playing Rangers in Ibrox, and it was the first time, I believe, that Ibrox was 50-50. And normally the Celtic fans would take up the Broomlawn end, which would be behind the goals. As you're looking on TV, would be left to right.
We were in the stand.
We were in the... I can't remember the name of the stand. What was the name of the stand?
It was a big stand there.
Yeah, it was opposite the... I think it's called the Govan stand, actually. I think that's what it was called back then. And that experience of going to Ibrox, I'll never forget your face when you walked in, just of feeling that tension in there, and just that a unique occasion. And it was funny, I was only reading up about how unbelievably the thing that set up for Scottish football. They had a draw with the SFA, and Liam Brady was managing Celtic at the time. And Liam Brady was out of the country watching Celtic's opponents play. And Joe Jordan stood in and Walter Smith. So they did a toss, and whoever the toss was going to get the home advantage because Hampden was getting done up. So Joe Jordan won the toss, and your man from the SFA then said, "Oh no, that's just to see who gets the call."
And if it doesn't work out this time, we go.
So they tossed it again, and Walter Smith won, and it was the game was in Ibrox. Unbelievable!
Well, there was always that prejudice against Celtic among the refereeing community.
Yeah,
let's put it that way.
Still is. You can still see it in some of the decisions.
Yeah. Shame, isn't it, that people see that's the problem. They never accepted the Irish community in Glasgow or Western Scotland. And, they were always looked down upon, and they were deprived of the best jobs, of the best schools, the best housing, similar to what happened in north of Ireland. So that hatred grew up around, these anti-Catholic ideas. And, a friend of mine married this Protestant girl, and I had a chat with her there some time ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and she said, my mother hated Catholics. And I said, why did she hate Catholics? I asked her, why do you hate Catholics? She said, I don't know, we always hate them.
So it's just the thing.
It's just we always hate Catholics. So how can you justify something with that kind of an answer? But that's inbuilt.
Yeah.
There that you hate Catholics.
That still is. Like, I seen there on Facebook that some Irish club I don't know whether it's in Glasgow, I'm not too sure exactly where it was, but they keep getting targeted with graffiti or stickers being put on all tags. All tags are targets.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I know what that is. That was the Margaret Skinnider Centre in Coatbridge.
All right, I played there.
Yeah. So the Margaret Skinnider, she was, as probably know, a great heroine of the 1916 Rising. She was the only woman injured in the 1960 Rising. I actually wrote a song about her, which you can have a look at or get up there and on the internet somewhere.
We'll stick it on at the end of the show.
Yeah. It's Margaret Skinnider, but she was a heroine in many, many ways because she wanted to. She was a sharpshooter, And they were given jobs to come on as messengers and going here and there, which he did. But then she asked Michael Mallon, could she go up on the roof and start shooting? And he allowed her up there, and she went and she shot for whatever time. And then she had this idea of moving from one place, from the College of Surgeons to the hotel on the side there for strategic reasons. And he thought it was a good idea. So she and another member of the group went across. And as they went across, she took an injury. She ended up in a hospital, which was just at the top of Stephen's Green at the time. And it was St. Vincent's Hospital then. And she ended up there. But she was lucky to get away with it. And she had the nuns in there and everything else kind of protect her from the British. And she eventually got back to Glasgow.
So it's that centre. Wow, it's a good story.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Obviously heard the song.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're getting near our time. We're at 50 minutes there now, so I guess we'll sign off and we'll listen to Margaret Skinnider.
Okay, see you again then, folks.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to show your support for James McClean.
Absolutely.
There I
Yeah, so that's Margaret Skinnider being performed live with the Celtic Symphony Orchestra. And my sister Siobhan on vocals. So great song. And thanks again for listening. Guramila Mahagat. And if you like what you heard, don't forget to share with your friends. Give us a like on Facebook, Instagram, and keep up to date with what we're doing on Twitter. And we'll be back on Tuesday with an episode of the podcast called Down in the Mines. So slán go fóill and keep safe.